Welcome, everyone, to today's Town of Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. As you know from previous meetings regarding the applicant, the chair of those meetings was Randy Patosh, and Randy has moved on to a different position. So in my position as chair, I have designated Virginia Fenwick to become the chair for this 40B meeting today and any future ones in regards to this application. Virginia is eminently qualified through her profession to chair this meeting, and this is a meeting of great importance. And I think you'll agree with me when we're done that it was a good choice on my part. So that's all you'll hear from me. Ms. Fenwick.
Thank you, Dave, and good afternoon, everyone. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, including the use of AI note-taking apps, please notify the chair. Is anyone doing that? Okay, Mr. Buckley. Okay. I just wanted to mention, we need to note that for the record. So is anyone online doing that? Okay. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025 extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until June 30th, 2027, this meeting of the Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 202-781-914 #. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV Xfinity Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. And in accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue, hearing, or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. Okay, so we have a few procedural steps that I'm going to go through. We will do a roll call of all board members. We ask if any citizens and non-board members participating in the call via the phone only for their name and the last 4 digits of their phone number for identification purposes. The hearing notice will be read by Sarah Clark to my right, and you or your representative presents the application. Chairperson may read or summarize all letters received by the board. Anyone wishing to comment on the application may speak up to 3 minutes, and those present in the meeting room will be recognized first, followed by anyone online. For the 3 minutes, I'm going to try to announce when you have 1 minute left and then 10 seconds. So I'm not going to be interrupting throughout, but I'll give you that idea, mostly way through and then in the final seconds. Also, Penrose may rebut written and oral comments. Board members will ask questions. The board will vote and continue the application to a date certain that we'll determine at the end of the meeting. All votes are taken by roll call, and at the end of the meeting, close via verbal confirmation and note the time of adjournment with roll call to adjourn. Okay, so that's our... Okay, so before I do roll call of the board members, I wanted to quickly just reintroduce the staff and who we have on the phone. Sarah Clark is the principal permitting officer. Jay Briggs is here today. He's the building commissioner. Jay Tolleman is our town council. He's on the line. And Chantel Kilkenny is here in person, and she's assisting with the minutes. All right, let's do roll call of all members. You'll be approving the format of this meeting. starting with Dave Veach.
Yes, David H. Veach, and I approve this meeting format.
Ed Acton, and I approve.
Paul C. Semple, I approve of this action.
David S. Nixon, I approve.
Stephen D. DeBoer, and I approve.
Lee Hovey, I approve.
As do I, Virginia Fenwick, approve. Okay, so Penrose, I think, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, sorry. Sarah will read the ad.
Application number 25-077, Penrose LLC, 15 Milk Street, 16th floor, Boston, Mass. 02109. The properties are located at 0 Meeting House Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 4E, Block 11A, Lot AB, owned by the Town of Chatham, and 87 Meeting House Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 4E, Block 12, Lot 23, owned by Corey Baker. The applicants are requesting the grant of a comprehensive permit under Mass General Law, Chapter 40B, Sections 20 through 23, and 760 CMR 56, for the construction of 42 dwelling units in 8 residential structures and a maintenance building. The applicants are requesting the grant of various waivers from regulations promulgated by the Chatham zoning bylaw and other local regulations. The combined properties contain 4.12 acres in the R60 zoning district. This was continued from August 14th, September 4th, October 16th, November 13th, December 10th, 2025, and January 15th, February 5th, March 5th, and May 7th, 2026.
Good afternoon, Mr. Singer and members of the Penrose team.
Good afternoon. Thank you. For the record, Andrew Singer, attorney, here on behalf of the applicant this afternoon. And as you noted, there are several members of the team in the audience. You'll be hearing from some of us up front, and then we're all here for questions. We actually don't have a long presentation, series of presentations for you today, so we'll be able to have a good conversation with you. Did want to just update the board. We submitted a further supplemental submission last week. And I just wanted to go over what was briefly in that, or go over briefly what was in that submission. Going to have a quick presentation from Horsley Witten and Kali Cottrell about the revisions to the site plans, the landscape plans, the photometric plans. And then I'm going to come back and want to talk about the sidewalk. And so in the supplemental submission that we gave you, there is a memorandum about the sidewalk, which we'll come back to. We also, to further evidence site control under the 40B, we provided you a redacted copy of the purchase option agreement for the property. It's also my understanding that at the meeting on May 7th, when I was out of the country and was not able to be here, that the owner of 87 Meeting House Road also signed the town form that was requested regarding authorization to appear. So you have evidence of site control. You had the land disposition agreement for 0 Meeting House Road. You now have the purchase option agreement and the signed authorization for 87 Meeting House Road. So evidence of site control has been just reconfirmed with you now that the land has been added to it. We did have the additional plans that I mentioned, and there's also a revised stormwater report that was provided in the supplemental submission last week. What I would just like to first point out before we go to the plans is the changes that you reviewed at the last meeting that, how did the project change overall in broad strokes. In broad strokes, the density of this project has decreased for 2 reasons. 1, the land area got bigger, and 2, the existing dwelling that is on 87 Meeting House Road, the 2-bedroom dwelling, is being eliminated. So there is a decrease in overall density by the addition of land, your denominator is changed, and the fact that there's going to be fewer residential units overall than what were proposed and existing, prior to the last meeting. As far as site changes, and there aren't really many site changes, but a couple of the site changes that I wanted to point out, and you might hear more about that, is there is now going to be covered bicycle parking, which was a conversation, before, to make sure that people had a place to put their bicycles. And also, the maintenance storage shed previously was an accessory attached structure to one of the residential buildings. So one of the residential buildings was bigger because you had this accessory maintenance area attached to it. Now, as you've seen, and we can go over on the plans again, the maintenance shed has been detached and moved to the center of the property, so it's more, it's in the central part of nearer to where the one better more centralized, but also closer to where there is the play area and the open space and things like that. So those really were the main physical changes, other than providing what we believe is better site access through the new driveway, a better spreading out of the buildings, sidewalks, the path that we're going to discuss. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Rich Clater first, and then Mark will come to discuss the landscaping. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Singer. For the record, my name is Rich Clater. I'm a principal with Horsley Witten Group. We're located in Sandwich on Cape Cod, and I'm a principal engineer and the principal of the project. And I just have a very short presentation to sort of summarize what Attorney Singer was already informing you. The plans that were submitted last week are really they're preliminary engineering plans, but they're quite detailed. We worked through revised grading plan, which is shown on the figure here, drainage, utilities, utility connections for sewer and water to the public system in Meeting House Road, conceptual erosion and sediment control. And so we've worked through all the details. I know you see a lot of like tables and charts. Those are the drainage structures. It's really quite complete. And when we did those plans, we had the benefit of the prior peer review from the third-party peer reviewer, Ty and Bond, as well as DPW Director Bob Foley's comments on the prior. So we took those comments that we had addressed prior and made sure that they were incorporated in this set. The drainage and stormwater, which is a big part of an environmental component for any project, we feel confident it exceeds the town regulations for stormwater management and the state's stormwater standards. We also believe that it's protective of the environment on site. All of the drainage is contained within a natural depression, a wetland, kettle hole. It's also an embankment from the rail trail, and is protective of the receiving water, which is the Taylor Pond, Mill Creek watershed in terms of, importantly, nitrogen loading. So we've gone above and beyond in terms of making sure that that's the case. And then my colleague last month, Joe Henderson was here. He did state that we had submitted the fire turning movements to the fire chief, Tavano, and we did receive back a confirmation that he's okay with the alignments and the town's fire equipment can access the project. The only other things that I would state is that from a utility standpoint, and we talked about this perhaps a little bit last month, the connection, the relocated connection, really provides a better access point to the public utilities. So that's a net improvement. We also talked about things like site distance and transportation or traffic. It's a better location for that, and it does meet the setback distances from the adjacent driveways. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mark, the landscape architect, and he'll give you a little more detail on those components.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. For the record, my name is Mark Warfel. I'm a landscape architect with Crowley Cottrell. The first slide here, which was submitted, is updated photometric plans. So we went back through to look at site lighting, and this is the technical drawing showing the calculated output of the site lighting. We like to include a diagram of it here just to show the design intent. So we're using the more nautical themed light fixtures that we've discussed at a previous project, but shown on the right, that gives an indication of what they look like. And then on the plan view, they're keyed by type. So The smaller ones along the path are lower output to provide a nice, even, safe lighting along the path. We have strategically located bollard lights for lighting pedestrian ways, and taller parking lot lights that are of the same character, but they're 16 feet tall. And those light the parking lot and the drive aisles. We've also submitted, along with Horsley-Witten, updated landscape plans, which include the planting. And this hasn't changed much from what we showed last time, just highlighting that there were some shifts here and there as we accommodated utilities, but with all the same design intent of providing increased buffer along the north property line, maintaining existing trees in the central green area, as well as a robust number of street trees and a reforestation effort on the front slope. So that's the overall plan, and I'm going to turn it back to Andrew.
Thank you both. To close out our initial presentation, I wanted to discuss the sidewalk question that has come up, and to clear up what I believe, and I just kind of realized this as I was walking in this afternoon, what might have been, has been maybe a miscommunication or something ambiguous on our part that I just wanted to make sure clarify for everybody. Also, you have a memorandum from VAI, transportation engineers, regarding the sidewalk analysis that we have done, and Jeffrey Dirk, who prepared that memo, is online. I know you can't see him at the moment, but he is there. In case you have questions, he wasn't able to stay for the whole afternoon, but we did ask him to log in so that after I've just gone over this recap, if you have questions, he'd be happy to answer them for you. So what has been done, what we've proposed is the path that you see on Mark's plan here. The path would go down and it connects up to the rail trail. Now, the conversation was over, should there be a sidewalk along Meeting House Road from the new site entrance? And the memorandum from Jeffrey analyzes three things. It analyzes the path and the connection that we're proposing. It analyzes a sidewalk on the west side, our side of the street of Meeting House Road, and it analyzes a sidewalk on the east side. And these areas that you see here, and I'm going to go to another sheet in a second, but these areas on Meeting House Road that you see here, as he notes in his memorandum, are not conducive themselves to a sidewalk due to topography and land rights and other things and having to cross the road. So what we've proposed, and we believe, is not only safer and more efficient, but in the long run for both the applicant and the town will be cheaper, is we propose the path, and then the path, okay, so this is the path. This is the property. The path roughly, this is not to scale. But the path roughly comes out where this line is here. And then right now the rail trail comes over and there's a crosswalk over to the rail trail continuing. The nearest sidewalk on Route 28 is right here and the crosswalk is there. The applicant, through the land disposition agreement with the town and to you, is proposing to build a sidewalk on part of Meeting House Road. They're proposing to build a sidewalk here from the crosswalk to the crosswalk. And so the safe access that we're talking about is coming down the path for the residents, taking this short distance on the rail trail, crossing the crosswalk, and then taking the new sidewalk to connect up to the larger sidewalk system. And there's nowhere else is there a sidewalk here. This provides, we believe, the safest, as I said, most efficient access to the sidewalk system on Route 28 because of the grades and all of the other issues that come up on the further section of Meeting House Road from the rail trail north. So wanted to just clarify that, and Mr. Dirk discusses that in his memorandum, well, he doesn't discuss this end part, he discusses how we get to this part. And that is why we are proposing, and we believe it is the most economical and frankly the safest method of handling the pedestrian infrastructure. And this is something that's actually above and beyond what frequently the planning boards require with subdivisions. Yeah, you know, for non-40B subdivisions, very often there are no internal sidewalks and there are no sidewalk connections to the public infrastructure. But the applicant, in discussing with the town through the LDA, made that commitment to connect up, and that's what we are proposing for you as part of this project. With that, let me go back. That's, as I told you, Madam Chair, we didn't have a real long presentation today. That is it, and we're happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Singer. Thank you, Mark and Rich. I think now I'm going to read correspondence that we've received. Okay, the first is from Sharon Drown, Treasurer, Tax Collector, Town of Chatham. Good afternoon, Sarah. On June 3rd, 2026, communication took place with Rio Sacchetti from Penrose LLC. Penrose is taking a proactive role by working directly with the homeowner and will be addressing the outstanding tax obligations. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me directly. Sincerely, Sharon. Okay, next we have a letter from Tim Charlebois. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that okay. In relation to the Penrose affordable housing proposal for Meeting House Road, I continue to see safety as a significant unresolved issue. In my view, the memorandum from VAI does not address the safety concerns raised at the May ZBA hearing surrounding use of the rail trail as a primary pedestrian walkway, including lighting, maintenance, snow removal, and the conflict between recreational and residential pedestrian use. Stating or restating the challenges of a sidewalk on either side of Meeting House Road provides no relief from the issues raised, but rather illustrates significant limitations of the location itself for development such as the one proposed. I should also note that my previously expressed concerns about density pertaining to the project included the introduction of such a large development into South Chatham. While Penrose has cited the reduction in overall density within the site that would be afforded by the acquisition of 87 Meeting House Road, this would not address the issue of the total number of units being higher than the area can reasonably be expected to bear. Respectfully yours, Tim Charlebois, 9 Chat Harbor Lane. To Sarah from David and Linda McElroy. Without question, Chatham needs affordable and attainable housing for its workforce. Too many Chatham workers are having to commute long distances because neither affordable, not attainable housing is available. This being said, such housing design and density should be in keeping with the character of Chatham, but currently the Penrose design most certainly is not. Once the housing design is approved and built, it will be here in South Chatham for a long time. Therefore, we urge the board to carefully consider all the design and density elements before offering its approval. There are multiple design flaws, but we will focus on one in particular. Penrose has not been willing to revise their design to include sidewalks for the new project entry driveway along Meeting House Road to Route 28. And this is a huge safety risk to potential residents who will be walking along this busy road to nearby bus transportation. Meeting House Road is extremely busy, and during this past winter of 2026, when there was significant snowfall for about 6 weeks, there were continual snowbanks on this road with no plowed shoulder. This would have required residents, including children, to walk in the roadway to get from the proposed Penrose development to Route 28. In the winter, it becomes dark a few minutes after 4 p.m., which is a time during which pedestrian traffic would be expected. And it should be noted that a pathway to the rail trail would not address the need for a safe pedestrian route to Route 28. Before approving this design, Penrose should be required to agree to installing and maintaining a sidewalk along Meeting House Road from their development to Route 28 for the safety of the residents, including safety of the children and those who are mobility impaired. We do wonder if the lack of a sidewalk puts the project in violation of ADA requirements. We strongly encourage this Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals to follow through with this requirement before approval. This is merely one of the multiple design flaws in what is a proposal which blatantly ignores the character of the neighborhood in which it would be constructed. We urge the board to withhold approval until a design is submitted which corrects the many flaws in the current proposal. Respectfully, Linda and David McElroy, South Chatham. Then we have a letter from the law office of J.P. Burke. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I represent Gloria Hicks, owner and resident of 95 Meeting House Road, Chatham, Massachusetts, a direct abutter to the above property. As the board is aware, my client is the holder of a right-of-way passing through both of the above identified properties. My client has not arrived at any agreement with the applicant to give up or extinguish these rights, and accordingly, the applicant has not gained the required control the property for the issuance of a 40B. In addition, because the applicant has added property not included in the original application, the additional property has not had a determination of eligibility. Control and eligibility are prerequisites to the issuance of the permit. These are two issues that require resolution before the board should proceed with this matter any further. Both issues constitute grounds for appeal. The revised proposal significantly impacts my client's property, both in terms of value and use and enjoyment. Unless and until arrangement is made with Penrose, my client intends to oppose this project and take whatever necessary actions are required by way of court action to enforce and protect her rights. My client requests that you suspend any further action on this application until these issues are resolved. Very truly yours, J.P. Burke, attorney for Gloria Hicks. Okay, and then we have a letter from E.J. McKenna. No, I'm sorry, from Lou Hybe. Sorry, it's coming in on that email address. I apologize.
They're married.
Oh, okay, they're together. By an undemocratic and possibly rigged autocratic process, the Chatham citizens of South Chatham will suffer the egregiously deleterious consequences of this atrociously ill-conceived housing project. Despite the recent Penrose adjustments, there are still more than enough problems with this project to fill the book, including overcrowded density, public safety, and an aesthetic impact to the entrance to South Chatham that will permanently negatively transform the character of South Chatham. The defeat at town meeting of the proposed transfer of community preservation funds for this project demonstrates the intense opposition to this project. It's been said that your hands are tied, but they're not completely tied. Hopefully, you'll figure out creative and imaginative ways to demonstrate your solidarity with your fellow citizens of South Chatham. Lou Hybe, Chatham. We have a letter from the Reverend of the Holy Redeemer Parish. Dear honorable board members, on behalf of myself, Most Reverend Edgar M. D. Kahuna, Bishop of Fall River, and the faithful members of the Holy Redeemer Catholic Church, we express our support of the proposed affordable housing project at 0 Meeting House Road. Most of the site is land sold to the town of Chatham by the Roman Catholic Bishop of Fall River Corporation Sole for the express purpose to be the site for affordable housing. That desire is so strong, the land was sold to the town at a reduced price. Its assessed real estate tax valuation. No project this side of heaven is perfect. There will always be aesthetic, safety, and other concerns expressed by a minority. Your board has conducted a painstaking evaluation of the project over 10 months. Penrose has been responsive to the concerns of the community and your board. Your decision should be based on the common good of the community. Your vote to approve this project will be in its best interest. I remain faithfully yours, Reverend John Sullivan, Pastor. Okay, we have a letter from Mr. David Farrell. Under Middleborough versus Housing Appeals Committee, due to Penrose LLC deception issuance of a Meeting House Road 40B comprehensive permit to a separate single-purpose entity controlled by the applicant, subject to limited dividend requirements as required by the March 2025 EOHLC project eligibility letter. And with 5 years of experience as required by the Meeting House Road RFP, should be denied. My attached June 1st, 2026 photo and the below email demonstrate that Penrose LLC does not control its Eastham affiliates. For 7 months since Penrose LLC had notice of my November 9, 2025 photo, neither Penrose nor its Eastham affiliates have rectified the documented Eastham construction, maintenance, repair failure. For Chatham, that failure is compounded by Penrose continued presentations at ZBA meetings while ignoring the ongoing Eastham problem. It shows Penrose arrogance and bad faith in the application process. It shows that Penrose will not be a good neighbor. It shows that Penrose will not be welcoming to our new Chatham residents and will walk away from Meeting House Road, just as it has in Eastham. And for these reasons, the comprehensive permit should be denied with the new request for proposals promulgated to find a developer who will not try to deceive us. Thank you for your consideration. David Farrell, Main Street. Okay, and our last letter received is from Michael Schell. It is I wanted to note that it is correspondence that we received. We don't need to read it. He actually mentions that we don't need to read it. It's longer than what we have in our requirements, but it is on the website for those that would like to view it and read it, and we have it for our record.
Madam Chair, if
And
I
that
could just point out for the record that that letter is a strong defense of the project, going through the history of the project and why it should be approved, just so everyone knows.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Mr. Singer, for adding that. And the letter's online for anyone that would like to read that. That concludes our correspondence. Comments from the public. Mr. Singer?
There should be, I think there should be an opportunity for Singer to rebut.
Mr. Singer, do you want an opportunity before we go to the public comments to rebut any of these comments in here?
The one thing that I'll rebut is just because it's legal, as opposed to otherwise. There was an allegation from Attorney Burke about the right-of-way that Ms. Hicks has over the property, and absolutely Ms. Hicks has a right over the property. As you know, Penrose has been negotiating with her for many, many months. They actually had an agreement, orally on a new dedicated driveway for Ms. Hicks. She is now not in favor of that, which is absolutely her prerogative. However, that being said, Penrose reached out to her after the last meeting. They also hope to continue discussions with her. But conversations with Ms. Hicks about the right-of-way do not impact either site control or your ability or requirements to review the 40B application before you. It is a potential title question, but there are more than one way to resolve the issue. What is shown here is what we ultimately hope, after the board approves it, is what the parties will agree to. If they don't, then as with any 40B, we will be coming back to you with an amendment request, and what we could do is go back to the road that's there today. And the driveway for the new development could go through the current driveway at 87 Meeting House Road. You could reuse that, join the existing right-of-way, and then the new owners and Ms. Hicks could share that right-of-way the way they do today. That's an option. It's not the one we think is preferable for everybody. It's not the one that Penrose wants, but that's always a legal option, and it's not something that ties into the review. The design that you have is the proposal that's before you. There is site control. This is the application. If we have to come back for an amendment someday because we can't satisfy a condition, then we will. But that's the only response I think at this point. Look forward to any other questions. And also from Mr. Dirk, if you have questions on the sidewalk itself.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Singer. Did you have anything else?
Only if you thought Jay's opinion of what Mr. Singer just said is important. If you don't, then you leave it alone.
Yeah, okay. So our chairman of our other part of our ZBA hearings has just whispered in my ear. So Jay Tolleman, you're on the phone. Would you have any comments, and maybe you don't, on any of this legal right-of-way that Mrs. Hicks' attorney's bringing up that Mr. Singer just rebutted? And do you have any comments now, or perhaps you'll want to offer later?
No, I'm happy to offer some now. I thought that this is an issue that has come up frequently over the years under 40B, and the way it is shaken out is somewhat similar to what Mr. Singer has suggested, is it's not really a site control issue with respect to the roadway issue, because the site control pertain requirement, which is a kind of quasi-jurisdictional requirement, meaning it's a quasi-requirement to make sure that they can actually apply for you, relates to their control over the property itself. And there's two things about that. First of all, they don't have to show much there, except that through purchases and sale agreements here, two agreements here, they have a valid interest or prospective interest in the property. Second, to the extent that the subsidizing agency has already drawn a conclusion that they do, then that is a presumption moving forward. They certainly do satisfy that requirement for site control, and Housing Appeals Committee cases say that that's about as far as you can go. That doesn't mean this is a non-issue, and I don't think that Mr. Singer suggests that it's a non-issue at all, and I think his practical response to that is close to the mark. And that is that the zoning board is free to continue to ask that this issue be addressed. Ultimately, and I had a similar matter to this in another community recently, we would impose a condition, or I would think we would impose a condition if the board chooses to approve this project that would say, hey, this is based upon the project as presented. We understand that there's an issue with the neighbor. If you have to change this access road in any way, you're going to have to come back to us for a hearing to address that particular change. And I think that's what Mr. Singer is suggesting that would have to happen anyway. So I think it's important that we keep our eye on it. And I think it's important that we continue to encourage Mr. Singer and his client to continue to work with them. And it appears that they are making some effort there. I hope that they are successful in that regard. As to the other issue in Attorney Burke's letter, the change to the project, the regulations on this are clear. It is a requirement for Penrose to notify their subsidizing agency of the change. Normally, most normally, and this is right in the regulations, the subsidizing agency will address that issue if and when there's an approval and the applicant goes for the required post-permit final approval. That's what it states in the reg. So it is an important issue and something where there is an existing requirement for Penrose to comply with, but it is not something where we have to go backwards and do a new project eligibility letter.
Okay, thank you, Jay. That's very helpful.
And Madam Chair, just to follow up on that, Penrose has notified the subsidizing agency, has not heard back, but they have notified them.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Singer. Okay, so, Sarah, we go to comments now? Audience comments. Yeah, audience. Okay, in-person comments we'll go to next. I just would like to ask folks, there's a microphone in the center here, which would be preferable, so we keep that open for the applicants. And just as a reminder, you have 3 minutes. And this, we've been asked periodically to extend that to more time, and we have thought about it, a lot over the years. We're going to stay with the 3 minutes, and it's not to limit the voice, but to actually maximize the opportunity. There are a lot of folks here that usually attend these meetings, and it's to help ensure that everyone does have an opportunity to speak up. So we're very interested in the public's input on the revised plans. You should certainly share whatever you'd like, but anything that is more specific to the revised plans would help to move it along. And again, at 1 minute, I will try with Sarah's help to remind you that you have 2 minutes left. And then just at 10 seconds, just a quick summary. If you are at that point and you have more to say, you'll be cut off after that. 10 seconds. Okay, so I think we want to start with those in favor? Is that what we usually do?
No, so we'll do anyone that has a comment that's in the audience, and then we'll move to anyone online that has a
Okay.
comment.
Okay.
Carol Gordon, South Chatham. Quite a few things, so I'll try to talk fast. The easiest thing is, one question I have, will there be generators on the property? And perhaps that can just be a yes or no? Generators on the property? Anyone know? Yes? Okay, because I was wondering,
Sorry,
pardon me?
yeah, sorry,
can't do
Miss.
that.
Sorry, Miss, you can't direct questions directly
Okay.
to the.
All right, then I would hope we would discuss if there will be generators on the property, if the units will have AC, and what the winter storm plan might be. After
Okay.
the winter we've had, there'll be almost 200, 300 people that will need care for the services, and what their plan may be for that. Also, with the sidewalks, okay, it's my understanding, I don't know if you could pull that up again or not, but when the kids come out, they go over to the rail trail, and we don't know yet who is going to maintain that rail trail as far as snow plowing and things like this. So they'll come across, and then they'll cross over 137, and I'm assuming there's going to be an appropriate crosswalk there. They'll come down the other side, and then will there be a school bus stop there where they come? Or I think the school bus stops on the other side. So will that be worked out, that the school bus changes their route and that they stop over there for the kids? And it's still pretty long for them to have to walk when they're little. But anyway, okay. And then,
We're noting the questions that you're asking.
I'm sorry, pardon me?
We are noting the questions that you're
Thank you.
asking.
I
so,
appreciate
yeah.
that. Okay, and just one other thing regarding the last meeting. Okay, I know that Mr. Shell had written a 9-page letter that went into the packet. So does that mean that anyone who writes, and again, this meeting also, it went into the packet because it was longer than your usual requirement? So if someone else writes a long essay about it, that will also go into the packet?
We do, yes, we have
Okay.
anything that is sent in is officially in the packet of information related to this
So anyone
application.
can do that?
You can do it. We prefer that you don't do it. We prefer that you write something that can be
I
read and
understand.
shared with everyone. But yes, it's part of the
break
packet. You can do
precedent.
that, yes.
So, okay. So, all right, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, yes.
Members of the board, Jan Burke, attorney for Gloria Hicks. I'll be brief. My letter was to the point, but I do want to point out, first of all, my client is willing to continue to talk with Penrose, but at the last encounter was not productive. We are still willing to negotiate something with Penrose, but it's an entirely different world, this proposal, compared to the other one for my client. The impacts are completely different. It's not a minor adjustment. Penrose, I think, is going to have to come forward with some type of realistic proposal for my client to consider. It's a private property right. We'll work it out directly if it can. If it can't, I want to point out one thing. I don't completely agree with town council. The property rights under 40B have been litigated, not at the Housing Appeals Committee, but in the land court. And if my client brings an appeal, which she's going to do, to protect her rights if necessary, it will involve the court system, not the Housing Appeals Board. And this is not site control. Right now, the applicant does not possess the legal rights to build what's on that screen. And until they do, it's like there's a missing piece of property. Unfortunately, the control issue here has just been sidelined. This has been going on since last August, and that's a prerequisite to this thing. And the board has expended all kinds of energy on this application without a prerequisite such essential as this being settled. We don't think you should waste any more time with this. You're just churning this over and over and over again without the applicant having the basic building blocks that they need to build this project. So I just want to emphasize that. I hope you'll consider that. And as I said, we'd be happy to talk to Penrose further. But in the meantime, we're opposed to this, and we're going to proceed with our legal rights being protected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Burke. Anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry, there's someone in the back already making his way. Yeah, you can go next, Mr. Buckley.
My name is John Wright. I live in South Chatham. I'm very opposed to this, and the main reason being that if you travel 137 on a daily basis off of 28 towards Stop and Shop, both sides of the highway, if you meet a runner or a child with a school bag, anybody going to school or a runner, you literally, if there's a car coming the other way, have to pull over, wait until the car passes. And I think, it's a dream to think these kids are only going to access 28. They're going to want to go to the nearest store, which is the corner store, or, the only other store you have going the other way is the liquor store. So, in my mind, in business, sometimes you put a lot of money and effort into these things, and I understand Penrose have done projects that have probably made sense, but sometimes when you put a lot of money into things, you're more entitled to, now you've got the bit between your teeth, you got to follow through. But there's nothing about this thing that makes sense. It's when you think about the liability of putting all these kids onto that bike track and then suspecting they're all going to be like, cattle going across to the sidewalk that's going to lead them to 28, it's a pipe dream. It's not going to happen. These kids are going to want to go out the main entrance, access up 137 and walk on the side of the road. And I'll tell you right now, it's going to lead to tragedy. It doesn't make sense. There's a lot of projects you look at that the flow is right, it's a safety issue, it works. You look at this project, I don't think there's anything other than affordable housing that makes any sense, practically. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Mr. Buckley.
Thank you, Steve Buckley. I'm glad to see that the new design, because of the expansion of the property, allows for an island with a green area and a playground and my prints too small here, the maintenance building and a bike area for, I hope it's electric bikes, that it allows for that. But anyway, what I'm concerned about or curious about is whether or not the applicant, which I guess I can't ask them, but whether or not the applicant has considered the fact that that the Regional Transit Authority might be having a bus route stopping there, just like it does now at the Anchorage off Crow Road, where people, and I think what I'd like to see in taking it and designing this is redesigning it so that now with all this extra room, that there could be a place where people could wait for the bus. If it's, and as my understanding that RTA would put one there, just like I think is going to happen at the former Buckley property, but that there'd be more of a shelter place, not just an overhang where people are exposed to the wind and so forth. Down at the Anchorage, people can wait inside. They can also see the bus coming. So you can gather up your stuff, here it comes, and it's not just all of a sudden it shows up at your doorstep, at your feet. So one aspect could be to actually, if you look at, and I'm wondering if we could just pull back the screen for that, that shows the island, and maybe even zoom in a little because it's, yes, thank you. And you can see that the maintenance building is at the top, and the playground and some other areas is down at the bottom. What could be done, I suggest, is to flip that so that the maintenance building plus a room, some type of place, like I said, to wait for the bus, maybe the mailboxes, I'm not sure where the mailboxes are, but that would be a central place for picking up mail also. And so that's my suggestion. And that way it would be a more useful thing. People would be able then, of course, to see, oh, here comes the bus. It'll be coming along. They'll be able to look out. It'll go around the circle and perhaps stop on the left side or down below, but someplace there. And people will have that notice to be able to do that. I see I have 15 seconds left. Thank you.
Yep.
And so, and the other thing is, I would suggest that under this chair, that straw votes be taken for particular items, because otherwise the applicant just has to interpret furrowed brows or body language. And a straw vote really would make it clear what should be included and what should not. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Buckley. Okay, Mr. Shell.
Mike Shell, Chatham. First, I want to confirm, I did say you don't have to read my letter. It's a long letter. I think I should tell you what I think you need to know or you might be interested to know, and that took me 7 pages. I did offer a summary. I'll just note here quickly, 23 years ago, Chatham unanimously at town meeting adopted a plan that said we are going to get our subsidized housing index to 10%, and we said we were going to do it by 2015. We're at 4.81. This plan, this project, together with the other project that you've approved, is going to put kids in the school. Matter of fact, a lot of the people who oppose the project say we have to worry about the kids. You have made decisions based on kids in the school and protecting the school. This is an opportunity to do something for the school that it desperately needs, which is increase the enrollment. There is evidence that certainly says we can expect that. Financially, this is a phenomenal project for Chatham. It's at least based on their proposal originally, it's a $28.5 million project. Chatham pays absolutely nothing for it. Indeed, they're going to give us $300,000 in cash back for the property when we close, plus a $200,000 note. We can argue about whether it's worth anything, but a $200,000 note for the property. Density. The density as now proposed is 10.2 units per. The planning board, with its West Chatham Neighborhood Center inclusionary planning proposal, inclusionary zoning planning proposal, said 10 was the right number for inclusionary, for basically for affordable housing per unit, per acre. This is virtually identical. I also note that there are 10 acres surrounding this project of unimproved open land that's never going to be developed. Density, absolutely. First of all, I'm not sure whether it should be an issue legally, but I'll leave that to the lawyers. As a practical matter, you've got 10 acres of open space surrounding it. Density should absolutely not be an issue here. I thank you for your work on this. I appreciate it. I hope you will move expeditiously to address the issues and get to a decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shell. Yes, ma'am.
Gloria Hicks, Meeting House Road. I have to begin by correcting Mr. Singer. For 2.5 years, at every single meeting, ad nauseum, I have asked for my own driveway. It's all I wanted. It's all I asked for. And with the previous plan, I had pen and paper. I had a pen in my hand last fall. I told Jill Goldsmith I'm ready to sign. A few months ago, I reached out to Penrose and said, do we have an agreement on the driveway? So to say that I'm not on board with the driveway, it's all I ever wanted. This whole plan is a game changer. It is a completely new plan, and everything is different. And just a driveway is no longer good enough. I currently have a private backyard. I've invited all of you to walk through anytime you want and see how I live. It is an oasis. I am surrounded, 3 walls of my house are woods. I enjoy my night sky on the deck. I enjoy quiet. I have no lights, no traffic. I walk on that easement road every single day to get to the bike trail, to avoid 137, to walk my dog. That's how I live. All of that goes away with this new plan, every bit of it. And it's unacceptable. I have been at every single meeting, and I want this resolved faster than anybody. I've been held hostage by this thing for 2.5 years. I want this resolved, and I want it resolved tomorrow. And it's gone beyond. And to think that this is not more dense is crazy. It's expansive, it's huge. Another half an acre has been consumed, and another small family with an affordable, attainable home has been displaced, and another small home has been destroyed to create affordable and attainable housing. I mean, the logic of that just escapes me. And you want kids in the school? There's 2 kids that live at that house. So that's why I'm opposed to this project. It completely changes the way that I would live my life. I still want the driveway, but it's not just about a driveway anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hicks, for your comments. Okay, yes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't intend to speak, but the one subject that hasn't come up,
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, can you?
Ann Timpson,
Okay.
Chatham, is the substandard construction issue. Attorney Farrell does mention the problems up at Nauset Green in Eastham, which apparently haven't been attended to, and it's been several months since December now. And also, I have started researching all of the lawsuits against Penrose management in different states, and I haven't had enough time to go through each one in detail, and there's only so much information one can get. But issues like mold and mildew, that's a big deal when it comes to the point where you can't live in a unit, and all that's offered initially is a dehumidifier, which of course is going to cost the tenant considerable electrical bills. If you are an affordable tenant, you probably don't have money to hire a really good lawyer to defend you. But many have tried, and some have been successful and some have not. My concern is the quality of construction. I've attended all these meetings, and I've gone to the CPA meeting where Penrose basically said, if you don't give us $500,000, we will have to deal with less quality construction material. That should have been a buzzer. That should have alerted everybody. It alerted the town. We didn't vote that way. We didn't give a lot of money for that one, and nor did the CPA. But please, please, let's investigate the construction issues. How are we going to monitor that? Isn't Nauset Green worth investigating a little bit? At this point, I would even say, can we have a copy of the rental tenant agreement so we have some idea of whether those who get into these units have any rights at all before having to call a lawyer in? Thanks so much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Phillips at the, or Mr. Dykens.
Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. I'd just like to bring up the fact that our neighbors, Orleans and Harwich, signified that they do not approve of this project because they did not vote for the CPC funding for it. I think it has to do with that the project is bad and that the company, they don't approve of the company Penrose. We also voted the funding down at town meeting for this project, signifying that we don't approve of it. And I'm pretty sure, according to LDA, that we need a proper town meeting approval. So I'm not sure if we even have that or if this project should go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. All right, Mr. Dykens.
Yeah, I hope we're not wasting hot air this evening, given the legal issues that have been raised. But I'm very much in favor of this project. I think we lose sight of the fact that it provides 42 families and units of housing in a town where we've only achieved 4.81% of our need for housing, our subsidized housing inventory, number one. Number two, we voted down the CPC monies for Meeting House. We approved the CPC monies to the tune of $400,000 for Main Street. We also approved, I believe it was $100,000 for the town of Orleans for a Penrose project that has been built. That has yielded 20 students to the schools. They built 65 units. That has yielded 20 students for the school. Eastham, 65 units. It's yielded 40 students for the schools. So let's talk about what's truly needed in the town. We need a more diverse, affordable town. We've been harping about this stuff for 10 years, for 20 years. And it's time we acted upon this. I love the sidewalk plan. I love the fact that it comes out of there, it ties into the rail trail, and then they're willing to do a sidewalk down into the intersection of 28. Kids are going to use the rail trail. They're kids. They're going to ride bikes everywhere. That's all I did when growing up, was ride bikes everywhere. That's all we did. I'd love to see kids riding bikes down Route 137. I'd love to see them on the rail trail. I'd love to see them on Route 28. We've never had them. So let's get off the dime here, please, and approve a project that we invited these folks to come in and develop, and at very, very low cost. Please be reminded that Archdiocese sold this land to us at a deep discount for affordable and attainable housing. We invited folks to come in with a very reasonable, I believe, reasonable project, and we should approve it. It's going to, if we're ever going to do anything with that, it's going to be affordable and attainable. We're going to do another whole RFP. With these kind of terms, I don't think so. So please, do your best. Please do your best to approve this. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dykens. Anyone else? Comments? Anyone online?
We have Frank Messina online.
Mr. Messina, can you hear us? We see that you want to comment. I think you are on mute. We can't hear you.
We also have Ms. Gibbs online if she would
Okay.
like to speak, and then we'll go back to
Yeah,
Mr. Messina.
exactly.
Thank you, Elaine Gibbs. I think this project is a mess, frankly, and my notes are a mess because of it. Kids are not statistics. They're not a box to check off, and they shouldn't be collateral damage. And I don't want to see children riding their bikes on Route 137 and Route 28 unless you want an accident to happen. Under Mass Chapter 40B, the developer is legally required to disclose the cost of land acquisition because 40B developments are restricted profit projects. Land costs are directly tied to calculating the developer's equity and permitted return limit. The purchase of 87 Meeting House and the cost should be included in revised financials because it's something we need to know. Penrose has previously said that Meeting House was a financial loss without 1533, yet somehow they've been able to come up with at least $600,000 to buy that property. And so I want to know if they have that discretionary income, or if they don't, what is going to get cut? Is it going to be the materials? They have alluded to that fact before when they said they could never do Meeting House alone because they'd have to cut the quality. And I see that coming. And this property is not safe for children. There are ravines. The entrance is bad. There are no sidewalks on foot or for bikes. I'm even confused now where the bus is going to pick them up. That's how messed up this project is. I thought they were going to be picked up on 137. It sounds like maybe they've got to go down the path and get picked up on Route 28. Once again, there's no place for the children to ride. There's no assigned or guest parking. It's one thing on 1533, people can find other places to park. There's no place to park. You've got shift workers, they're coming home at night. They find out that there's no parking.
You
They
have
no
one
place
minute
to
left.
park. Right. Penrose knows that there are safety issues. They have acknowledged it in this, and they're trying to get out of it on legal technicalities. There is liability to the developer, and there will be liability to the town because we all know it. It's been acknowledged here over and over. It is not safe for children. There will be an accident, and God forbid it's fatal. This project is outrageous. It's absolutely insane. And I don't know why we're even pursuing it at this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Mr. Messina, did we connect with you? Are you back? Unmuted? Oh, we lost you. Okay, feel free to call back in if you want to. Anyone else online, Sarah?
That's it.
Okay, all right, well, yes, rebuttal. Mr. Singer or anyone, Rio from Penrose? Rebuttal for the comments that you heard.
Excuse me. There were a lot of comments that we heard. We were writing them down just like you. What we prefer to do after one more question I'm going to ask you is maybe suggest a short break so that we haven't been able to talk about them, so that we could at least try to address some of them. We won't be able to address all of them. However, before a break, if you're willing to grant it, want to ask, we're going to shortly lose Mr. Dirk, and I didn't know, in addition from the board now, to his memorandum or anything that's been discussed to this point, are there any questions the board has that they think Mr. Dirk they might want him to answer? If not, we'll answer them, but.
So those would be specific to the sidewalk questions?
Yes, yeah, which is what he did, yes.
Engineer.
The sidewalk would be, if you have questions that you think he might be helpful for.
Well, I had questions about the VAI memorandum, but you might be able to answer these questions, or Penrose. Do you want me to just go through and start going through? Okay. So on page 3 of Mr. Dirk's letter at the very top, he mentions a grading easement, and it made me think about, what about an easement? Is there an easement required to connect to the rail trail? We know the town owns it, but does Penrose have an easement, or do you need a permit to actually connect from your property to the town rail?
From my point, I'll say I don't know. I don't know
Okay.
if
So,
Jeffrey does at this point. We can ask.
Okay, that was one question. Who manages the rail trail and maintains it? And maybe, Mr. Singer, you know this, what legal mechanism authorizes the actual connection to the rail trail? And maybe that's sort of the same as a permit or easement. I guess those go
I
together.
think that's the same question.
Okay. All right. Also, there was a comment that Mr. Dirk made at the end of that first paragraph, the first paragraph on page 3, where he talks about introducing a new conflict point for pedestrian bicycles is not desirable. So is entering the rail trail at about the 150-foot mark from the end, the stopping point, is that considered a conflict point? That would be a question.
Jeffrey, can you respond to that if you're there?
I am there, and can you hear me, Madam Chair?
We can hear you, thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate you hosting me online. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Dirk. I'm the managing partner with Vanessa and Associates and with the transportation consultants for the project. Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have relative to safety, pedestrians, bicycles, as it relates to the project. Specifically as it relates to the options that we evaluated in our letter. I think first starting with the easement connection to the rail trail itself. If the project site abuts the rail trail, then the connection can be attained through whatever requirements the town may have to allow for a connection. I would think, subject to your attorney's review, This would be no different than like a driveway connection out to a public way, and I think it would be handled the same way, but I don't think there's any impediment to that connection actually taking place as a part of the project. To your question as it relates to conflicts, I think as we look at the three options that we had evaluated relating to the sidewalk connection, what I think our focus was really on is the sidewalk on the opposite side from the project site. And that what we were saying in terms of conflicts is that what you do not want to create is an additional mid-block crossing, as we term it. A crossing at a driveway is considered a mid-block crossing. If we were down at 28 or at another intersection with a public way, it's considered an intersection crossing. That's a point where motorists expect there to be conflicts and pedestrians to be crossing, even if there's not a crosswalk. Introducing a driveway or crosswalk across a location where a driveway is considered a mid-block location, and it's not desirable to have crossings at that location or at such locations. If you do introduce a crossing at a location such as a mid-block, you do want the rectangular rapid flashing beacon, which is what you have down at the rail trail. So I think what we were suggesting and looking at what is termed option 2 is that it's not desirable to create another crossing of Meeting House Road where there's already an existing one just to the south of the project site that is under control. And so that's what we were pointing out.
Okay, so just to summarize, a mid-block, I understand that is, but are you asserting then that because you're merging into the bike path, it's not a new conflict, or it's not a conflict?
Correct. It's not. It's
okay.
not a. Yeah. It's not a. It certainly is not a conflict point that rises to the same level that you would have with crossing a roadway.
Okay, thank you. One more question. At the very last sentence of page 3, you say the proposed on-site connection is consistent with the suggested approach defined by the Cape Cod Commission in the 2012 Complete Streets, Living Streets Design Manual. And then you provided an excerpt below. Now, when I read that excerpt that you provided, I see that it says inserting pedestrian paths in areas with narrow roadways and structures like the wooden fence, which is at the rail trail, close to the road's edge requires sensitivity. So it does say that. Wouldn't you say that that's applicable to the rail trail in merging?
So what they're speaking about as it relates to the narrowness is not so much the rail trail. What it's speaking to is where pedestrians become in conflict or in close proximity to moving motor vehicle traffic. And so that's what they're speaking to. And probably to provide a little bit more context to my statement, it's really in looking at, I think as you see on the, what I see on my screen now, which is that excerpt, the idea of separating pedestrians and bicycles from motor vehicle traffic. That's not only consistent with what the Cape Cod Commission is recommending, it's also now more standard MassDOT process, is that separated bikeways is the more desirable approach or separated conditions for either bikeways or sidewalks, is to actually move them, physically separate them from the edge of the traveled way. And so as you look at kind of what is shown in the excerpt here, that green patch that you see there, that's more of the standard approach that's being taken now. So the idea here is really introducing pedestrians and bicycles onto a shared use path separated from the traveled way is more desirable than putting them right adjacent to the traveled way. In fact, that's something that now we're always trying to separate by at least 4 feet from the edge of the traveled way, a sidewalk or a shared use path.
Okay, so would it be fair to say, in summary there, that you were talking more specifically in your letter about vehicular traffic, not bicycle traffic?
That's correct,
Okay.
Madam Chair, and I appreciate you pointing that out.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had for Mr. Dirk.
Thank you.
Ginny, I had a couple of questions for Mr. Dirk, if we have time. At the top of the paragraph, the top paragraph on page 2 of your report, you indicate a sidewalk connection along the project site driveway to Meeting House Road has been added to serve as school bus stop and to allow for connectivity to a future sidewalk to be constructed by others. It seems to me you're saying that there is no likelihood that a future sidewalk is going to be constructed by others. Is that correct?
So I don't think that's not what I was inferring. We would recommend, even to the extent of that, if this connection was not to happen to the bike path, which I think it's advantageous at this location, we will always recommend that a sidewalk from within the development be provided out to the public way. Just in the event that two things. First of all is for the school bus waiting area there, but also to the extent that a future sidewalk is constructed along Meeting House Road. It's not to imply that one won't be constructed. I think, the location of affordable housing at this position here, and that there are existing little sidewalks along Route 28, make it highly likely that to Summit Point, the state would provide funding for the construction of a sidewalk to complete that missing connection that's there. It's not something that is a part of this project is obviously being proposed. In fact, it's something that the cost of doing such a connection is disproportionate, I think, to the cost of the project. So that's why it's not a part of the development that's before you. But we provided a connection as a part of the project, and it's highly likely that a sidewalk would be constructed in the future. And it's not suggesting that that would be done with town monies, but we think that affordable housing at this location provides that opportunity for state grant funding to complete a sidewalk.
So you're anticipating that the only person or group that would be likely to do such a future connectivity to the sidewalk would be the state?
With state funding is what I would suggest. Constructing a sidewalk is not an insignificant undertaking. And I think that's kind of what we were pointing out in our letter here, just because of the fact that, as we said, just in terms of basic elements, curbing needs to be installed. That implies a closed drainage system, which is not there today. It also implies, as it relates to a sidewalk along the frontage of the property, is that there's the possibility of, the need for a retaining wall, because there's been a lot of discussion about ADA compliance, and that sidewalk has to be ADA compliant. And so that would require a leveling of the shoulder area to be able to construct the sidewalk, which is, again, closed drainage system, vertical granite curb, and then potentially a retaining wall to retain the sidewalk so that it can be built to ADA standards.
Okay, thank you. Let me direct your attention to the pedestrian connection that is a part of the actual proposal right now. Is that going to be ADA compliant with handicap access?
So I'm going to defer to the site engineer as to that. But if it's to substitute as a sidewalk and provide a connection, it needs to be compliant.
And Mr. Clater can respond to that.
Rich Clater for the record. Yes, it's designed to be ADA compliant. Yes.
Okay. I think those are the only questions I had.
Okay, any other questions from the board for Mr. Dirk before we let him go and take a break? We'll take a break. Okay, seeing none, we'll take a 5-minute break. And does that work for you?
Yeah, that should be fine. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Jeffrey.
Dirk. Mr.
Leave it here for now.
Singer, just, we're back, everyone. Mr. Singer, you ready for rebuttal?
I can't see, I'll let you do it. Almost with you.
Okay.
Okay, now this goes away. Okay. All right. Thank you. I had to get some technical help there.
No problem.
All right. So I'm going to respond to a few different things that we heard. I'm not going to be responding to everything because, frankly, both pro and con, you've heard much of it before for the last many, many months, and so we're not going to respond to everything. But a few simple responses to some of the questions we heard. Yes, the units have central air. No generators are not proposed at this time. As far as the construction and the quality, not only does Penrose follow all state, federal, and local rules and regulations, their properties have won multiple awards. And again, I'm not saying that, to be crowing, it's just in response to a comment we heard. The final thing I do think we need to respond to and show is a slide I want to show, and it deals with the issues Ms. Hicks brought up. Since it became such an issue, we feel it's important for the board to understand what, in fact, has happened. And, there have been, as she said, there have been negotiations with her for a long, long time. Some of them included Mr. Clater and myself on site with herself and other representatives. The whole goal, as she said, is improved access for her to Meeting House Road, which is something the applicant agreed with. So initially, what they've done, they came in with a driveway at the beginning. That driveway's been expanded to have a larger turnaround at her request for not only her cars or her guests, but also for any delivery trucks that come. So now there's a large enough, the plan, it showed off to the side of one of the plans you had earlier. Additional row of Leland cypress hedges were added to bolster the landscape buffer. A stone barrier was included by the applicant to replace a guardrail. This also would provide her with improved access to future sewer connection if she wants on the town's sewer. And to maintain better access than she has now, because now she walks down the old layout and gets onto 137 and has to walk right on the shoulder of the road, as everyone's been talking about, to get to the rail trail. The applicant proposed the path that you saw on the plan that would bring her to the driveway, which is a public layout coming up into the development, and into the path that the applicant has proposed leading out to the rail trail and then the bike and then the sidewalk system. I'll bring it back to, okay, so here we go again. So, and you can see that path on the right-hand side of this image shaded out. So, again, after the last meeting, Rio has reached out to Ms. Hicks. As you heard, she is upset and while they're willing to talk, right now the only thing that's been on the table was a request to purchase the property, which is not something the applicant can do or will be doing. They still, I'm going to reiterate it again, we're happy to meet with, I'm not sure where she went. I'm happy to meet with Ms. Hicks, or not me, but Rio's happy to meet with Ms. Hicks. I'm happy to meet with a lawyer if she would like. We would like to hopefully work it out. However, as we stated and as Mr. Talaman confirmed, this is not a issue that impacts legally impacts what's on the screen before you. That is what we're asking you to approve. That is what we're asking you with conditions, and that is what is being presented to you as what we feel is the best project for the development on the land. With that, that's a rebuttal for right now. We welcome any other questions you have. I know we've been meeting with you for a long, long time. This is something new. This is the second meeting on this revised sketch here. We're happy to try to answer further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singer. Okay, so now we are going to go to the board. Questions from the board. Let's start with Dave Veach.
Well, I think that most of the questions that came up, I think, have primarily been answered. With the indulgence of the rest of the board, and perhaps I was thinking that in my reading of Mike Schell's letter, there was another part of it that I wanted to hear a little more emphasis of. So I thought I would ask him if he was willing to do that. But I don't know if that's stepping on anyone's toes or not, in terms of time to speak or whatever.
I believe you can ask follow-up questions. Yeah, you can ask, give you the 3 minutes.
So, Mike, if I'm wondering if you would be willing to just, there was a portion of your letter that, and in your summary, you didn't really mention this, but I thought I wanted to focus just on this portion of your letter that outlined some of the obstacles or difficulties that and objections to that have been raised about issues with respect to density and other concerns with respect to Chapter 40B. So if you just could maybe, there were maybe 2-3 points, and I don't remember what they were, but you did kind of have a little section talking about the difficulties that or the constrictions under which we need to work with in reviewing 40B.
Well, is this on? Is this on? Yeah, okay. I'm reluctant to get too detailed here because although I once had a license to practice, I'm not here as a lawyer. I don't presume to give you legal advice. You have a lawyer, they have a lawyer, and ultimately it's for them to say. What I did try to say it was this. First of all, you've had a lot of legal advice from the public. Legal advice, most of which is coming without benefit of a license. And if I took the privilege of joining that crowd of giving you legal advice without a license, apologies. I do think, and I did want to say there are, and you've heard it from Mr. Tallerman, basically, that there are 4 areas where it is appropriate for you to examine into the conditions of the project and to say, we have either it passes muster or we have a problem and legitimately we need to impose a condition or we need to say no. And I outlined those 4 things, and I stand by that, and I'd be surprised if the lawyers object to that. With respect to some of the things I said about improper objections, that was based on my desktop research as to areas where, generally speaking, it is not appropriate or it isn't legally cognizable for either you or the Housing Appeals Board or anybody else to say this is a reason to deny to deny a permit. And again, I was really just trying to focus the conversation mostly coming from here, not from you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. If that answers your question, I'm glad. If not, I'm sorry.
No, it does. Because I mean, I appreciate the history that you gave, but this was sort of not so much a history piece. It was another piece I wanted to put emphasis on.
All right.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that all you had, Dave?
That's all I have for now.
For now.
Just if something comes
Yeah.
up, Nicole. Thanks,
Okay.
Jenny.
Ed?
I don't have a question for the applicant, but could I ask Jay a question? Sure. Jay, I guess I'd like to know, has a friendly 40B ever been denied before in the state of Massachusetts?
I'm trying to think of from my history of it. So first of all, my guess is yes. And I'm trying to think if in my experience, I've seen a select board sponsored friendly 40B through the LIP program or otherwise be denied. And I think probably, yes, I have seen that before. I think that like any 40B, there's long odds to denying things, but all the same rules apply. And whether or not what the select board did to work towards reaching consensus with Penrose might have resulted in improvements to the project that might allow you to express certain concerns regarding local issues because they were all kind of negotiated, doesn't mean that you don't have the same jurisdiction to approve with conditions or deny. So there's nothing binding, but there's certainly, at the very least, there would be a very slim history of that occurring.
And as a follow-up, have any friendly 40Bs that have been denied not been overturned?
Well, I'm certain, I can state a little more confidently, although not with 100% certainty, that has not occurred. So if it's been, well, let me back up. You mean if there's been a denial of a friendly 40B and an applicant then appealed?
Correct.
So my guess, if that has occurred, and again, I haven't been party to any of those that have reached that kind of litigation, the overwhelming odds is that they were reversed, but not necessarily because they were a friendly 40B, but more because the Housing Appeals Committee reverses almost every denial that comes before them. Sometimes there are projects that are reversed maybe on a procedural ground or something like that. But in terms of being overturned on the merits, I mean, I've been doing this for close to 30 years, and I can count on one hand the number of projects that I've worked on where there hasn't been a reversal. So I think that almost in every instance, denials face long odds of being upheld at the Housing Appeals Committee and even in the courts beyond it.
Okay. And if we weren't able to reach an agreement with Penrose and say we denied it, and it goes to the appeals board, do they have the right to go back to their original plan? And do we then don't have any input as far as conditions, or are they able to, or will it be remanded back to us to try and work something out?
So two things there, and one is a practice tip, and one is kind of more of a legal process question. First, I think it's incumbent upon this board, and I think this board should, and I think Penrose should, decide which project is their application. As a town council, for a lot of towns under 40B, when someone is doing a proposed revision to a project, my practice is to universally say, well, it's got to be one or the other. Either commit to the new project or commit to the old one, but we don't deal in what ifs and hypotheticals. So I think it is well within your right to say, which is your project, which is the one you're doing, that is the one we're going to evaluate. And because I've been involved in situations where boards didn't do that. And an applicant is saying, well, we always reserved our right to go back to the original project. And that to me is not a place where we want to be, because very often the original project is a worse project. So I think you as a board should ask Penrose, and I think Penrose should tell you which is the project. I think that there's a lot to be said for the improvements that they made. There's obviously a critique about some of the elements of the new project too. But I think you should know what project is before you, and that should be the project. There should only be one. As to the second issue, normally when the Housing Appeals Committee makes a decision, they are going to, and if it's to overturn a board's denial, they aren't going to remand it back. In the courts, we see that more frequently under Chapter 40A, but we very, very rarely see that under Chapter 40B. Very rare.
Okay, thank you.
Paul?
Well, I guess I'll ask the question, is this the project that you want us to go forward with?
The answer is, you want to answer? I'm happy to. I mean,
Yes.
this is,
Okay.
This is the,
The old project is off the table, and this is the project that we're now dealing with, correct?
this is the project that's on the table. If I could also, though, just to add to what Jay said, as far as conditions, to Mr. Acton's question, I am familiar with a case in Dennis many, many years ago where it was either I think it was a denial where the board had discussed a lot of conditions, they talked a lot about them in the decision, they denied it anyway. When HAC overturned it, they approved it, those conditions went away. And so that's a project that was built on north side of 6A in Dennis probably 20-odd years ago. So yes, this is the project, depending on whether you voted no or voted with conditions, how an appeal was happened, the conditions, I think, and I don't want to step on Jay's toes, but that's my knowledge of one of those cases.
Okay, thank you. At our last hearing, we had some discussion which seemed to take you by surprise a little bit about the question of maintenance of the bike path, wintertime and so forth, and the status of the bike path. Do I understand now that what you're proposing is that you're going to maintain the bike path from the point where it is entered from your property down to Route 28?
I have a legal, so you're asking a legal question, I'm going to hit you with a legal question back. When there is a sidewalk, so for example, the portion of the sidewalk that Penrose will be building, to loop from the crosswalk to the crosswalk on the east side of Meeting House, that becomes, it's in the town layout, that becomes part of the town infrastructure. The town is responsible, a private citizen doesn't maintain town infrastructure. The path down to where it hits the bike trail is absolutely Penrose's responsibility. They own it, they're liable for it, they insure it, it's theirs. Once you get to the bike path, the short section from where their path hits to 137, Rio might be able to say, yeah, well, we can plow it for our residents to get down there, but I don't know if they even can. I mean, it's not their property. It's town property. It's the town's responsibility. So I don't have I'll turn to Jay on that, but I don't have, from a legal point of view, it's not as simple as just saying yes or no, in my opinion.
Well, doesn't that just take us back to the issue that we had before, which is that in the wintertime, at least, the bike path is not maintained, at least that I'm aware of. It's not plowed.
Right.
So how are your residents going to get from where they exit the property that you're proposing here onto the bike path and down the bike path to Route 137?
I'd ask you the same question in reverse. If you went with the option, forgetting the cost and all the problems that Mr. Dirk mentioned, if there was a sidewalk on Route 137, no matter who built it, if a sidewalk was on 137 that went down to connect up, let me ask you, a town sidewalk in the town layout, who would be maintaining it in the winter?
Well,
I think it's the same question.
I don't have that answer, but you need to have an answer.
Well, we're talking to the people. I mean, the building commissioner's here, town council's here. I mean, we could speak to the town administrator. But that question's the same question no matter where the sidewalk is. I guess my point is, wherever the path or sidewalk is, your question is the same question.
I think, Mr. Talman, can you answer that?
Not sure I can answer it fully because I don't know about the process by which the path itself was created. I think that there could be a difference, and this isn't to debate or disagree with Mr. Singer. I think sidewalks can be different than these bike paths. Sidewalks are generally part of a public way, and the sidewalks are generally part of an accepted public way. And there is generally an acknowledged requirement that as part of that, the towns are going to keep sidewalks clear. I don't know, and I think it may be worth looking into by Penrose or our DPW or whoever is responsible for creating that bike path, because it's not part of a public way. It is a public amenity, but it's not necessarily subject to the same requirements that a town may have with respect to keeping a sidewalk clear. So it may be subject to those, but it may not be. So I think I think it may be worthwhile to, at our next session, to have a little bit of historical or benefit of the historical record with respect to that bike path. And we could look at that in between sessions too, to see exactly how it was created and what the expectations were or the requirements were for keeping it clear during adverse weather conditions. There may be no requirements at all, but there may be requirements. And to that point, I think that may help Paul with his question in terms of where do we go from here if that's viewed as something that may be an essential component for pedestrian access 12 months a year.
Well, it seems to me that that's certainly a safety issue that would be of concern to us, and we would need a resolution of it prior to any approval. So I expect that you'll probably be able to address that somewhat, at least at the next session.
Yeah, I think, I'd be happy to connect and meet with DPW post this meeting. I will say I feel really strongly that that should be a town maintenance issue because, for example, the $1 million home developments that we've seen here, they get their streets plowed, they get their sidewalks plowed, they get their trash removed, none of which we're getting in our project. So now you're asking for additional burden for us to go and do maintenance on townways, the bike path, at the cost of the affordable housing project, which I feel is a burden that's unfair. There'll be residents of the town too, which also deserve town services.
All right, well, I understand your position. I guess all I'm saying is that we're going to need to have that resolved before we're going to be able to approve your application to use that access as your primary access for pedestrians to get down to Route 137 and to 28, all of which is key to getting approval here, I think.
As Rio said, we'll reach out. I know we're going to be continued to a date in July, and we will reach out to DPW.
Thank you. I would like to have you address at some point here, not necessarily today, but we had a number of issues that we dealt with on Main Street that we resolved favorably from our viewpoint that I'm not sure are included here. And I just want to see if what the situation is. For instance, the storage units on Main Street, we requested be enlarged and provide for at least the storage of one adult bike. I don't know whether that's the case under what you've got proposed here. Secondly, with respect to trees, we requested an increase in the size of some trees that were near the entrance to the Main Street proposal to be not less than 4.5 inches in caliper. And I would like to see the same condition be true with respect to the trees that are the entranceway from the driveway on 137 going up to the project. Thirdly, we'd like to see a perspective of what this project will look like from the road so that we have an idea of people entering town. What will they be seeing as they drive past on Route 137? Are we going to be seeing a lot of buildings, tall buildings? What kind of buildings? How much of that is going to be obscured by trees, if any? we had a good deal of discussion about the exterior of the buildings on Main Street. And I'm not sure I've heard what the materials will be for that. The construction at Nauset Green has been an issue with respect to some residents, David Farrell being one of them. And I went back up to Nauset Green 2 days ago to take another look at Nauset Green, and frankly, did not see a problem with respect to the maintenance of the buildings that were there. It seemed to be well maintained, but if that is continuing to be an issue, presumably we need to hear about it from the public. We suggested that an irrigation system be provided on Main Street, and I don't know that there's an irrigation system included in this project, but we would need to address what happens with that. And the parking ratio has been an issue for a number of us, and the question is whether 67 spaces is sufficient. And I think one thing that would help, I'm not sure you've provided it, is what is the parking ratio at Nauset Green? Because then we can see a development that has been done in which we can see how the parking looks on a project that's actually been there for a number of years. Those are some of the questions that I had that could be included. And the question which was raised earlier about generators is certainly one that's current here. And I guess we'd like to know if generators are going to be provided. If they're not going to be provided, why not?
Sure. Understood about the generators. We circled up earlier, and we don't have generators currently in the plan here. That's something we actually do have in a lot of our projects, but it's usually projects with a community building, like we had at Main Street. So we'll look into maybe seeing the feasibility of adding one to the maintenance office space building here. And then going back to the parking spaces ratio. So Village of Nauset Green is 1.55 spaces. Fair in Orleans is 1.19. Swift's Landing in Wareham is 1.38 spaces per unit. Main Street here, Chatham, was 1.31. This project has a higher ratio than all of them. It's at 1.6.
And also, Mr. Temple, I understand this is a chart that I believe was handed in at the last meeting, so it should be part of the public record where it compares them all.
Any more questions, Paul?
No, thank you.
Okay. Dave Nixon.
Yeah, Paul, did you want the views 4 seasons? 3, 2, or 1? Okay. I'm involved in a commercial building in the city of Newton, here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The city of Newton, the tax situation is a little different than it is around here. If you've got a commercial building, you pay 140% of the tax rate, which is one way to give people with a single-family home a break and all that. But they won't collect your trash, and they won't plow your sidewalk, and it's up to you. And if you don't do it, they give you 2 days, and then they fine you. So you're talking about, I don't know what, because we don't do that around here, but it could be done. So it's not a good excuse, I don't think, just to say, well, I don't know, or it's the town's responsibility. I don't know. All I know is that property that we're talking about, the rail trail, that portion became owned by the town of Chatham in 1967. I don't know, Mr. Singer, what led to it. I don't know. I mean, the railroad was long gone. Railroad last ran in 1937. So it's been a long time between those two. And since that time, I don't know. I have a number of questions, which I'm not going to bring up today, but it has to do with the specific buildings. I'll write them out, and Mr. Singer, I'll submit them to you so you have them in advance. It has to do with what's in them and so forth, you know, but I'll just leave it at that, so just expect that from me, okay?
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Nixon. Steve?
One of the buildings that you mentioned is a maintenance building. Is that going to be, is there going to be somebody there all the time? And what kind of maintenance are they going to be expected to do?
So there'll be one full-time maintenance director and likely sharing a maintenance tech with Main Street and Fair and some of the other surrounding properties. They do a lot of things there. General property upkeep, paint touch-up. They do turns or repairs in units, like clogged sink, stuff like that. They also do the shoveling of the interior sidewalks, watering. If we don't have an irrigation system, they would do watering. They also do the unit turns. When a unit becomes vacant, somebody moves out, they go in, paint, make all the repairs, change the carpet, flooring. And usually, and for this one, maintenance director would be on call 24/7. In the maintenance shop, it's really like two rooms, the maintenance shed. There's like a work area where they would have their tools and some benches to do whatever type of repairs. And then there's usually another storage room, which is like parts inventory. You know, there would maybe bags of salt, also additional window shutters or anything that breaks and is need of constant replacement. We usually have a large inventory of products that we keep post-construction period. You know, the stuff we buy, we'll buy extras and keep them there so they're handy when they need to be replaced. So that's what's going on in there. It's not occupiable space for living in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe is there a restroom in it? Yeah, so there's no restroom.
Okay. So what's the mechanism if something is beyond their ability? You know, as drastic as some storm damage or something, do you have folks that are on call that can come out and that you employ, or what's the mechanism for making a major repair that's beyond the ability of the person who's there?
Yeah, that happens all the time. We have national contracts with large disaster service. We'll also have contracts with local, like for example, there was a kitchen fire in a property a couple months ago, and I forget the name. There's one vendor that we work with all over the Northeast. They come in and they do the whole repair in a day, because it's a sort of above and beyond what one or maybe two maintenance techs would be expected to do. We'll also have annual service contracts with landscapers, snow plowing, pest control. So there are third-party servicers that we'll have under contract that do the scope of work that's outside of what a typical maintenance director would handle.
Back to the use of the rail trail, it sounds like there's going to be some discussion about the maintenance of it, but the path that you have from your property leading down to the rail trail is lit. What happens once you get to the rail trail? Are you proposing any kind of lighting along there to get out to 137, or they're just going to walk into a dark hole?
We have not currently proposed any lighting along the rail trail.
Okay, so, okay. Maybe you should consider some alternate then, because that's not a good idea.
Mr. DeBoer, just note that if it was a sidewalk, it wouldn't be lit either.
I
know we'll follow up with the town.
I understand, but you're sort of annexing this and making it part of your infrastructure, and I would think
No, that's not true. It's town infrastructure that we want our residents to have access to, just like anybody else in Chatham has access
you're
to.
treating it as if it's your own.
No, that's not true at all.
We're treating it as a sidewalk in the public, which is publicly owned for, under its own rules, pedestrians and bicycle traffic.
Okay. Is there any discussion on where a bus stop might be, or for a school bus stop might be? Or are you proposing that the buses go onto the property, or are you thinking that they're going to be picked up elsewhere?
Rich Coder for the record. As Jeff Dirks said, we're providing a bus stop at the intersection of the driveway and Meeting House. If the bus doesn't want to stop there, then the first thing you do is you normally coordinate with the school committee and figure out what is acceptable. It's very rare, and I think I heard at a previous hearing, for a municipal bus system to come into a development and pick people up inside for a number of reasons, liability, I think, being the main one. So there would be a bus stop there at that location. That is the plan. That is pretty standard to provide that, and then to coordinate with the school committee and the providers to say, okay, this is where we're going to have kids, and a lot of them, or depending on how many you're going to have, and this is a good place to pick them up.
All right. Thank you.
Lee. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So I am going to follow up with Mr. Semple's question regarding the bike path and who maintains it. And I have a suggestion. The path that comes down from your property that then accesses the bike path, that will be lit, that will be plowed, I'm assuming, shoveled, so that people can access it at any time, night or day, snow or no snow. My suggestion is that you seriously consider and really look into extending that path along the bike path to the point where it comes to the doctor's office's property line. There's a little, jut out.
Yep.
That would be less expensive than making a sidewalk along 137. It would be safer than a sidewalk along 137, I would say. And if you could extend it, it's probably, what did we say, 120 feet? To the doctor's property line?
Is this the property line you're talking
Yeah, that's the property line I'm talking about. So extend it along that side. I don't know what you have to do with the fence that's there along the bike path. And you maintain that, and you light that. They get to the doctor's property line, and you are essentially at the crosswalk. It is maybe another 20 feet. I'm suggesting that because I think it is a better option for the residents. I think that if it's on your property and it's part of your path, you maintain it. That solves that problem. And I also think that by the time you get to the property line for the doctor's property, you are at a point where the bikes have to slow down. They're about to cross a main street. There's the flashing, crosswalk signals. The bikes have to slow down if they are coming from, down the bike path and crossing 137. And if they're crossing 137, they're just getting going. It's a safer little section of the bike path. It's not a horrible place for a sidewalk. It's going to take a little bit of, or a walkway, whatever you want to call it. It's going to take a little bit of grading. But I would really encourage you guys to go take a look at it, maybe you have, and see if there is any way that you can extend it so that it comes down. And I'd also like to request that you look at adding another entrance from the property onto the walking path, maybe over near the second dumpster or something, or whatever you think is better. I mean, it's a long path. That's a long way for people to walk to get down to 28, where they will either walk to the ice cream store or walk or flag down the bus. Because I don't think any buses are going to be coming down Meeting House Road. I think you have to get to 28 to get a bus. So that would be my major request and major concern regarding people exiting that property on foot. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, we will look at that.
Yeah, can't answer it today, but we heard them both.
Yeah, I've been out there
The
several
second-
times.
The
Sorry.
second access, you were,
You know, maybe by the second dumpster,
By Building 7.
Yeah.
She's just,
just a little, another entrance, or make that the main entrance. The main entrance,
referring to.
You can't.
I think it was
I'm
an
sorry.
ADA
Yeah,
issue
you
there.
can't meet ADA accessibility. Sorry. You can't get up to that grade. And we
Okay,
did look at
okay.
that a lot. Now, you could have a second area with some steps,
okay.
so you
Well,
could probably do that.
Okay, well, that's a definite, that's a thought. It was just, it happened, where you access the walking path is a pretty busy, that's where all the cars come up, that's a pretty busy area. To have another access, even if it's just by steps, I think that would be fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple of questions in no particular order. Mark, you had talked about an extensive landscape plan, and the area in the front, that sort of green triangle that's between the bike path and Meeting House Road is very, I think you called it, or someone called it a kettle pond, or, an old one. So right now it has a lot of, broken branches, trees down, debris. Will that all be part of a cleanup, even though you're not going to be disturbing and replanting vegetation necessarily in there? At least it didn't look like it to me. Would that be left completely natural, or will there be some things culled from there, landscaping-wise?
The intent is to leave it as is and preserve the existing buffer.
How about the trees that are broken? I know some of them might have even happened in this most recent storm, but there was a lot of, really messy debris actually in there, just, from the forest over time. Some beautiful trees too, but some of that, is any of that cleanup in that area proposed?
No, we're preserving the existing habitat and the existing vegetation,
Okay,
which also aids to the visual buffer that there's been concern about.
yeah, I wasn't really proposing removal of any trees, but really just the cleanup of some of them so that they can flourish. And there are some really beautiful trees in there that could be, just even more signature if it was, they're a little more visible. Okay. Rio, a couple of meetings ago, maybe the last one, you had, I think Mr. Nixon had asked a question about studios, okay? I'm going to be more specific. There's, that's called a 0-bedroom unit, okay? Because, but that still provides housing. And I don't remember, you had a reason for why that wasn't part of the Penrose proposal. I think it had something to do with the state didn't offer credits to Penrose for those. Could you just repeat that for is that what it was?
Yes, that's correct. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as saying they won't because there have been instances, but it's usually not brand-new construction. It's usually for existing properties that have already had studios. The state does not like studios. They think that they're substandard for what should be built for affordable housing, which is 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3s. In fact, our unit mix is based on specific ratios that were under the EO, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities requirements for the type of funding programs that you need to get this type of project funded, which is why we have a very specific distribution of 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 1 bedroom, specific ratios to comply with what the state is looking for and make the project most competitive and most likely to be awarded the scarce resources that are oversubscribed.
Okay, but a studio apartment, 0-bedroom apartment, would still count towards the number that we're striving for in town, increased in affordable housing. The state doesn't prefer them.
Oh,
so
for
they're
the
not giving.
SSA?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it
Okay,
does.
so that's just an option Penrose chose not to pursue. It's not that it wouldn't.
With a very good reason, because we don't like, bitching developments to the state that aren't what they're looking for and that they may think are substandard.
Okay. I think this is a comment maybe for you, Mr. Singer, or for Jay Tolerant, to add to Paul's question about the legal question, was just this was one of the questions, Mr. Singer, I asked earlier on, and it was while Mr. Dirk was on the line, and it really wasn't for him. It's more of a legal question. Just to confirm, what is the legal mechanism that authorizes the connection to the rail trail?
My understanding from, I'll let Rich answer,
Okay.
because he's the one who told me.
Okay.
It's, short answer is like a driveway permit. So your physical access, you don't need an easement to get there. You're going right up to the edge. You need an entrance permit from the town.
From the town, okay, an entrance permit.
Local, similar to the driveway, if you're putting a driveway to a public street.
So you don't need an easement, you just need that permit? Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Rio, probably this is a question for you. I just came across a statistic. It didn't surprise me, but I just thought about it in the context of a proposal, which is why I was asking about the studios, that 48% of Chatham residents are greater than 64 years old. We've been talking about affordable housing in the context of families and children in schools, but that's also a subset of applicants for this project, potentially. So I know that, or I recall you mentioning there were 5 ADA units in the proposal, right?
There are ADA, it's a specific ratio per code. Paul, maybe you can help identify the exact number, if it's 5.
I was hoping I could say something tonight.
Oh, good, okay.
This is
Well, now
Paul
you can. Yeah.
Ataman with Union Studio Architecture and Community Design. All of the ground floor units are roll-in accessible, compliant with mass accessibility rules. That's a Group 1 or Group 2 and Group 2A units.
Okay.
There's, I think, I haven't done the calculation, but it's probably about good 14 to 18 apartments
Okay.
that are ground floor, 1-floor living units.
Okay.
So that is a very good ratio in this development, really steered by Housing of Livable Communities, their requirements, as well as state building code.
14 to 18 units with no stairs. Is that what you're saying? Okay, all right. That's all I had, thank you. Oh, Jay, I'm sorry.
There's a follow-up.
In a follow-up, there was a question about bike storage. With this new maintenance storage accessory structure, there is a covered bike storage that's in your plans. It's part of the floor plan of the maintenance storage building, so we submitted for 24 bicycles. We did not have that previously, so that's a big plus.
That's within that maintenance shed?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you for adding that. Looks like Jay had his hand up. Jay Tollerman.
Yeah, so 2 things about what we just heard about the permit that might be required for kind of the, making it akin to like a street opening permit or driveway permit. First of all, if it is a permit, and I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that, then this board would have the authority to grant it under 40B. Second, I think it's still necessary to run the history, which I think Rio has suggested that they're going to do in between sessions of this particular bike path, because I don't think the question is that simple. It may end up being a nothing burger and that they have the right to connect and this board can approve it if they're otherwise satisfied with some of the issues that Paul raised and others have raised. But I still think that it may be very specific because there's not a lot of law that's specific to it. It's a public amenity. That doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be treated the exact same way as a roadway for the purposes of permitting. There could be other restrictions on it. I doubt it, just having done a bunch of this work, but I think it is important that we run down the history of it so that we understand it a little bit better. It may not require a permit at all, provided that the Penrose has the rights to connect to it. But it's possible that we may have to fashion some kind of process here. So I think it's worthwhile doing the work in between sessions and then taking the next steps later.
Okay, thank you, Jay. So we'll add that, Mr. Singer, to the follow-up. Okay. All right, any more questions, comments from the board? Dave Veach, you said maybe you'd have some at the...
No, I guess the only thing that ran through my mind was, and I was looking at the drawings and I didn't see, I wondered, relative to what Steve Buckley had commented on, I don't see like a planned shelter type, bus shelter thing down at the end of the driveway. Is that contemplated or not?
We don't show one. I guess that's something we'll think about. We do have one in Village at Nassau Green, maybe something similar.
We'll look into it.
Yeah, we'll look at that.
All right, thank you. Ed, did you have something?
Is there going to be a comment session, or there was a question session? Is there?
Questions and comments.
Oh,
Yes,
comments,
yeah.
okay. So I spent some time out on the property, and originally I was very adamant about, having a sidewalk along Meeting House Road. But when I spent time out there, and there is significant grading issues, and there is a significant amount of traffic along Meeting House, and I think of kids and roughhousing and playing. I do think the sidewalk idea of using the rail trail is a good idea, or even better, maybe something next to it. My concern about next to it is, and we run into this in the ZBA all the time, is you have a paved area, but then the easement sometimes is much larger than that. So I don't know what the size of the easement is here, but the easement for that rail trail may go far into the property, we don't know. So there may be it may be really difficult to do that. And also, I've spent a lot of time on the rail trail. And, depending on the time of the year, depending on the hours of the day, depending on where you are on it, the amount of traffic varies. But in general, I'd say there's more people walking than biking on this trail. And then you also have to remember it changes. So, during the school year, Monday through Friday, I don't typically see a lot of traffic on the rail trail. On the weekends, it picks up quite a bit. On the summertime, the dynamics change again, where you'll have bicycles, you'll have people walking, and it picks up. But then again, that's not during the school year also. So we have a lot of concern about children, and rightly so. But just, we should put some thought into the uses of the rail trail. From what I see, it's weekends where it's get its most use in the summertime. And, we're concerned about, accidents. There is a speed limit that people are supposed to follow. And they do allow electric bikes, but they're supposed to be at a reduced speed. But, generally, Monday through Friday, not in the summertime, not a lot of people out there with me. So I'm thinking, instead of along Meeting House Road, it might be better, it would be wonderful perhaps if we could get an easement on their property along there, but some of my concerns about the rail trail are alleviated, or I think it may be a better idea than a sidewalk along Meeting House
Along
Road.
Meeting House, yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
All right. Anyone else have comments that they didn't add before, in addition to questions? No? Okay. All right, so
I do need to know, is the board going to be looking for any additional peer review based on the new plans? Because all of our peer review was done on the old set of plans as far as stormwater and everything. So that's a question I have for the board, because we'll need to start that process if you choose that you feel you need more peer review.
does anybody have thoughts on that? Are we talking about the addition of the extra driveway and the 87? Primarily that change?
So the plan that the board is now reviewing, the new plan, which includes 0 and 87 Meeting House, is different than what Ty and Bond had reviewed previously. I'm not sure what changed for stormwater. Maybe the engineer can speak to that, and then the board can decide whether they feel it's necessary.
Yeah, and I mentioned this in my initial remarks. And as the professional engineer, I stamped this drawing. I could certify that our design meets the peer review comments from the previous one. And the Board of Professional Engineers will take my license away if that's not true. So if that matters to you, that's fine. But if you want to do the peer review, we'll do that as well.
Okay, Dave Beach?
So I'm just trying to, I'm going from memory here. So there was the engineering peer review, they had the traffic peer review as well. Were those, what else?
Planning.
What's that?
Planning board? No?
No.
It was just civil and traffic.
Civil and traffic. And so and then we did wade in on the new plan with respect to the sidewalk. And I think what being, at least it appeared, all appearances are that the new driveway configuration is actually better, probably from all of those things. So I don't think we need to be asking to see another peer review on traffic necessarily. I'm not sure about engineering, but I think we've just been assured that there's multiple hoops they have to jump through and standards to meet, so I'm not sure we need them.
Okay, Jay Tallerman, we see that your hand is up.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to create more work for anyone. I do think that if, given some of the changes in the impervious portions of the property, that it may be a good idea at least to have some very limited update on the civil engineering peer review, at least from a stormwater management perspective. I'm not trying to create extra work for anyone or unduly tax the applicant with the cost for that. But when you're changing the scope and the nature of all the impervious area on the site, I think it's worth checking that box by our peer review consultant. I don't think it would be particularly onerous or time consuming for them to confer with Horsley Witten and just kind of tie that all up in a nice neat bow.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great idea, Jay. We have a lot of sloping topography there, and the comment about the stormwater, I think that's really applicable on that site. Okay, any other? All right, so Mr. Singer, I guess we'll talk about the next, we want to continue. Did you have anything you wanted to?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, Rich will follow up with time bond, so we'll close that down. Continue unless you wanted to close and approve the project today. We'll ask you to continue to the next meeting.
We are proposing to continue to, we have a date to throw out, July 16th, 1 PM is what we can do. Is that,
That's fine.
all right, so that's July 16th, 1 PM. We'll continue. All right, so we just need a roll call.
We need a motion to continue to July 16th at 1 PM.
All right,
I'll move to continue the hearing to July 16, 2026 at 1 PM.
Dave Veach seconds and votes yes.
Paul votes yes.
Ginny votes yes.
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Okay, and then I think we just need a roll call vote to end the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, okay.
I'll move to adjourn.
Dave Veach seconds and votes yes.
Ed votes yes.
Paul votes yes.
Ginny votes yes.
Yes. Yes. Steve votes yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, thank you.
It is 4:27 PM.
Okay.